An incident on the Isle of Man has locals talking and is currently presenting the Isle of Man government with a considerable new challenge. It all started earlier today, and my colleague John Cunningsworth has more.
I am John Cunningsworth, coming to you live from the Isle of Man for a breaking news story. Earlier today, authorities were alerted to a number of vessels approaching the island from the direction of the UK. Upon hearing about this, emergency services were notified, with the Coast Guard and the RNLI both immediately jumping into action, and the Isle of Man Constabulary, as well as the Civil Defence Team, also deploying resources to the area these unidentified vessels were heading towards. Once the first boats had arrived, it quickly became clear what had happened. The boats, mostly small dinghies powered by single outboard engines, were filled with UK residents trying to flee the country. They had set off from the coast of Lancaster to make the perilous journey to the Isle of Man and a better life. I managed to speak to two of the refugees after they had safely made it onto Douglas Beach. Here is what they had to say.
I used to live in Bolton, you know, and things weren't too bad, but now, under Labour and Starmer, I just couldn't take it anymore. So when my neighbour Barry suggested we repurpose some of those boats the fellas used to come over from France and use them to escape to the Isle of Man instead, I was all for it. And here we are. Now, where's me chips, cheese and gravy?
I told my husband that if that terrible Starmer guy wins, we'll move to Spain. But with Brexit, we can't do that anymore. So we packed our bags and jumped on a little boat to the Isle of Man.
The incident has now created a problem for the Isle of Man government. The boat people are all claiming asylum upon arrival, but with no asylum laws on the island and the arrivals all being British citizens, the best way to handle the situation is not yet clear. We tried to interview a spokesperson or minister, but all we could get was a quote from an anonymous government employee. Asked what this wave of new arrivals will mean for the island, he said, and I quote, "Bugger if I know, but they can't be worse than the freeloaders we already employ in government." It seems this little rock in the Irish Sea is about to get a lot more crowded as more and more UK residents pack up and head for a better version of what their home once was. Back to the studio.